holiday, and by Tuesday be prepared to explain that we should not indict her. I mean, that is really a fast turnaround and leads to the question, what were they looking for Saturday morning? What would she have had to say to have Comey come in and say we need to indict her? Furthermore, I look at the whole way they've treated this, and I listened, Clifton and I were listening carefully to Comey's press conference. And as he went through each item, we thought, wow, that's really a crime. Wow, that's really a crime. And I thought he was building up to explaining why they were going to indict. Clearly, and this is a point that Rudy Giuliani, himself a prosecutor, has made very clearly, she meets the standard of gross negligence, which is either a felony or a misdemeanor, but in either case it's a crime. And talking about her being extremely sloppy or extremely careless is the definition of gross negligence. So I start from there and I think to myself, what in the devil are they doing? Then I start asking myself, why do you have this sudden rush? Why is there the Bill Clinton meeting with the Attorney General on the airplane, which itself is absurd? I don't believe they talked for 39 minutes about golf and grandchildren. I think it is totally inappropriate. I think it is a violation of the Attorney General's duties because Bill Clinton himself is potentially indictable under all the corruption at the Clinton Foundation. Then you turn and you realize a few days later they have this sudden Saturday morning interrogation, and we are told, if I have this correct, and I can't believe it, that it was not under oath and that there's no record. Then we're told 2 days later, after a Sunday and a federal holiday, that they are now able to rush to judgment. And the judgment is somehow not to indict. Now, let me point out, we have almost perfect evidence that she committed perjury in front of Congress because Comey kept telling us, she said this, but here's the truth. She said this, but here's the truth. So clearly, she could be indicted for perjury, which can be a felony. Clearly, she could be indicted for gross negligence, which could be either a felony or a misdemeanor. Clearly, she and her senior staff all have to lose their security clearance, as, by the way, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan has called for, and I commend him for the speed with which he responded to this scandal. And Paul Ryan is setting a standard. I also want to point out that the Judiciary Committee Chairman, Chuck Grassley, and the Senate, the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Bob Goodlatte, are already playing a very key role and are already working on these issues. I also think today's hearings, once again, reveal a whole set of very important information. But let me just go on for a minute. Jennifer Breyer says, as a former First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State, how is it remotely possible that she didn't realize what she was doing was wrong? Because she's a Clinton. And if you're a Clinton, you don't have to obey the rules. You just have to lie about it. And when you finish lying about it, you have to hope the media will cover up for you. She did this with cattle futures almost 3 decades ago. She has done it again and again and again. And it makes you wonder, if she were president and she met this standard of dishonesty, what would she lie to the American people about? Roberts Kendall. Why wasn't the meeting Clinton had with the FBI on Saturday done under oath and taped? Is that not standard procedure? Well, it's not necessarily standard procedure, but here you have an extraordinarily high-profile case in which thousands and thousands of FBI man-hours have been spent with a national figure. To not put her under oath makes me wonder, why not? I mean, it just strikes me that's the basics. To not record what she said makes me wonder, why not? This is an unusual case. And if Comey's going to take the unusual step of telling the world that he's recommending not prosecuting, he should have taken the unusual step of interrogating her under oath while recording it. He owed that to the country. Mark Tropman says, do you believe she will be brought before a court and have to testify again? I don't know. I believe that she should be, in fact, brought before the Congress, because she's clearly committed perjury. I think that the FBI and the Attorney General should be, by resolution, instructed by the House and Senate to actively pursue whether or not she's committed perjury in her statements before Congress under oath. I think that it's clear, and apparently Comey today indicated that he was not prepared to say that she was exonerated on the corruption in the Clinton Foundation. So I think it's a very important thing to recognize that this is a long way from over, but it's very troubling and says to me that the level of corruption we have in Washington goes far deeper than I would have thought possible. This is the opposite of Watergate. In Watergate, Richard Nixon, who had won re-election carrying all but one state, had ended up, or two states rather, had ended up with one of the largest majorities of popular vote in history. The system kept grinding and grinding and grinding, and honorable people resigned rather than implementing the president's instructions. Here's the opposite. No reasonable person can doubt that we're seeing obstruction of justice. Thousands of emails were erased. And by the way, Comey points out that Hillary Clinton lied about that process. She said the lawyers read the emails. Comey said flatly, no, they didn't read the emails. They read the headlines, but they didn't read the emails. Now, why would you think all of these things were eliminated? Oh, maybe because they're trying to obstruct justice, which itself is a felony. It's ironic that Comey's the person who prosecuted Martha Stewart for having lied to a federal officer about something which was not a crime. But of course, Martha Stewart wasn't Hillary Clinton. John Oberhelman says, can someone that can't get a government security clearance be president? Sure. First of all, by becoming president, they give themselves a security clearance. Second, becoming president is up to the American people. If the American people say, yes, I know she's a liar, yes, I know that she is a scoundrel, yes, I know she engages in corrupt practices, yes, I know that she has endangered the nation's security by the way she handles emails, but I'm still going to make her president. That's the American people's right. The Constitution is very clear. Our government comes from the people, and therefore they could make her president. Now, I have a hunch as this all sinks in, they won't make her president, but they could. Ryan Meehan says, right now there are 18-year-old privates that can handle information better than Hillary Clinton. Oh, I don't know if that's true. I think Hillary Clinton has handled information pretty cleverly. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. She deliberately set up a private server. She deliberately burned parts of her schedule, which is illegal, by the way. She deliberately eliminated emails that she didn't want us to see. I think she's handled information pretty well. If what you're trying to do is avoid the law, evade your responsibility, protect yourself, then I would say that she's done a remarkable job. It happens to be, I think, disgusting and illegal and should be prosecuted, but I wouldn't say that she's dumb. Blaine Salter, will they do anything to her staff? Well, let's start with the fact they should all be stripped of any security clearances. There's no excuse for any of them to have a security clearance. And that does have an impact because they're not running for president. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I want to stay focused on Hillary Clinton, the public figure who has said things under oath. She has said things in the press, and I believe clearly has committed perjury. She also, we need to know about the 76 secret meetings she had as Secretary of State with donors to the Clinton Foundation. We need to know about a variety of foreign influences on the Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State. So I think let's just focus on her rather than the staff. Kathy Joliffe, how does the Clinton Foundation tie in with the emails? Well, there is some evidence in some of the emails that she was sharing confidential secret information with her son-in-law about the German attitude towards bailing out Greece at a time when her son-in-law had a several $100 million investment on what the Greeks were going to do. So that would be a pretty clear case study of her abusing the system that comes straight out of the emails, but that fits a pattern of corruption that we see over and over with Hillary Clinton. John Ansell, Why are the Democrats not concerned about the national security breach? I think two reasons. I think, first of all, the Democratic Party has historically been much less worried about national security than the Republican Party. They've been much more willing to run risks in foreign policy. And I think that in that sense, they just don't get as excited. Second, I think the fix is in. The Democrats have decided the only way they can keep control of government is Hillary Clinton. They don't care what she does. They don't care how guilty she is. They don't care how many lives she's risked. They don't care how many secrets she's given up. She is their bread ticket to take care of the government employee unions, including the teachers' unions, and they're going to stick with her no matter what. Their problem is, by themselves, there may not be enough of them to, in fact, be able to set up definitively a Clinton victory. And if she loses independents and moderate Democrats who are not prepared to risk American lives, not prepared to lie under oath and commit perjury, not prepared to engage in obstruction of justice, then she could easily lose the election, and maybe by a surprisingly big margin. Randy Lemaire says, should this not now go to a special prosecutor and grand jury? Well, I don't know. I don't like special prosecutors. I think that they are dangerous. I think that they very often, as happened with Scooter Libby, the chief of staff to Dick Cheney, who was trapped by a special prosecutor in a really vicious and dishonest investigation. So I'm not inclined to special prosecutors. But I am inclined to have the director of the FBI and the Attorney General pursued under oath, and to have really serious instruction to the executive branch about prosecuting under perjury, for example. Brandon Black, she gave her attorneys classified documents that they attorneys do not have clearance to handle. So why is she not prosecuted for that? Great point. And by the way, Comey has said publicly that clearly she allowed people who ran the software or the site she was using, clearly they were not cleared to handle the stuff she was sending through the site. So again and again you find that she did things which I thought, up until this case, would have gotten you convicted for breaches of security and for putting America at risk. But apparently if you're Hillary Clinton and you decide that you're going to break the law, you're protected by a corrupt administration doing corrupt things. Marilyn Taylor says, where does Obama come in on her emails? I think he's hiding from it. I think he's perfectly happy to have the Attorney General deal with it. And I think his view is that he's going to try to help elect Hillary Clinton because she represents his legacy. Gina Ray McGinnis, why would Comey say she is guilty and not indict her? Most of us are very confused about this decision. I'm with you. I was shocked to listen to 14 minutes of why Hillary Clinton should be indicted, followed by 2 minutes of we're not going to indict her. I mean, you go back and you take step by step. Comey proves she lied, and then she lied, and then she lied, and then she lied. I can't imagine what he's thinking. He had a reputation as a very honest man. I think that reputation is in tatters now. And I think it's shocking that he would get himself caught up this way. I think it's bad for the country, and I think that something has to be done. Joshua Flager, they say they cannot prove she had criminal intent. Deleting emails and hiding it doesn't show that. Well, first of all, gross negligence doesn't require criminal intent. Gross negligence simply requires you to prove gross negligence. Now, clearly, I mean, she's the personification of gross negligence. You have a outside system which is not being protected by the federal government, so it's vulnerable. You use, as Comey himself said, you use your electronics in hostile countries where we know people try to hack in. You send all sorts of emails that are classified, including emails that have classification on them. Again, another Hillary Clinton lie. Each of these steps is an offense. You don't have to prove intent. just have to prove incompetence. And I think that it's startling that Comey's creating this brand new Clinton standard, which I think is just one more sign of how corrupt Washington, D.C. is. Kim Spear, this is scary. What will she put us through if she is president? This is scary, Kim, you're right. Everyone should wonder if she's going to break this many laws, if she's going to lie and lie and lie. Let's have that in the President of the United States. That's why Richard Nixon had to resign, because of Watergate. And yet here's Hillary Clinton, not even president, and already lying more often than Richard Nixon. I mean, take everything Nixon ever said, that would be about a week of Hillary Clinton's lies, and her lies have now gone on for at least 2 solid years. Bob Gray, will a new president have additional prosecutorial options? Well, ironically, they will, for this reason. We have a rule against double jeopardy, which basically says if we try you for something and we fail, and the jury decides you're innocent, we can't come back and try you for the same thing. But Comey, by saying he's recommending against an indictment, set the stage, because now she hasn't been tried. Now a new director of the FBI and a new attorney general can step in and could review the entire case and might well decide time has come to indict her. Now, the other thing I've been told is that she has said publicly that she thinks that Attorney General Lynch ought to be reappointed. That's just crazy. How can you have an official under investigation saying they will appoint the Attorney General in charge of investigating them and not think that it represents corruption and bribery and wrongdoing? So, I mean, I just think again and again, every time I turn around, you're seeing a corrupt system in which if you're big and you're powerful and you're in Washington, you get away with stuff that if you're a normal person, you have absolutely no hope of getting away with. So I think that's one of the really sobering aspects of this particular case, and something that we really have to take very, very seriously. One last question. Bill Myers says, this is a breakdown of the judicial branch of our government. This needs to be pursued. Well, you're exactly right. We either have the rule of law, in which case everyone is under the law, or we have the rule of corrupt elites, in which case everybody's at risk. There's no middle ground. This was a big step towards collapsing our system so it resembles Venezuela and other places where the rule of law has disappeared. It's a big step towards weakening America. So I hope you'll pay attention. We'll be back and have more of these Facebook Live opportunities, and keep pursuing this and keep talking about it. And we'll be back in the very near I am glad elites, in which case everybody's at risk. There's no middle ground. This was a big step towards collapsing our system so it resembles Venezuela and other